and it's us. Hey.
And
And I think
you
it's
you
coming through
getting
clear.
are you getting the audio delayed, or I think you've answered this before. It's not delayed on your end.
It is not delayed on my end. I can see the delay in the screen, but if you watch it live, it looks good.
Okay.
Basically, it buffers it for both of us. So what
Yeah.
you're seeing delayed is actually coming through my computer through OBS Studio all the way to you.
Gotcha.
So it will be a little delayed for you, but when it actually puts it all together, it actually has the buffering set up correctly for all of it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense. I remember. I was I was just remembering.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been so because we're doing podcasts and video podcasts and whatever you and I call this. um I've been looking at I've been watching like so many intros for podcasts and things like that. And hold on. And I've realized uh they all start like some are really polished, like,
Hmm.
and then some like I watched Joe Rogan recently because he's like the number one on
Hmm.
the podcast world. He
Yep.
just There is no planning of what he does. He just goes in
Yep.
and just starts babbling. And I was like, oh, if he's number one and he's doing that, there's gotta be something to it.
Yeah. I think that there's an art to it, right? One, are you do you want me to try put it on my headphones? Would that be better for your audio? Are you getting
No, my audio sounds great.
okay? I meant my audio for you.
No, you sound fine.
Okay, so I won't bother with the headphones. Um,
Yeah.
I think that there's an art to it, right? Like I think when you first get into it, you geek out, you buy the cameras, you buy the mics, you spend a lot of time tweaking stuff, and then I think that
This guy.
you come to the really this guy, right? I think you come to a realization that it's all about the content, and even with the content, you know, your audience is going to tell you what works, right? Your audience is going to respond to what works for them. And I I think having content strategies and plans are great, but so once you reach a certain level, people will basically consume anything that you produce,
Yeah.
and they'll be happy
No,
for it.
yeah, you gotta build your community, and I think the only way to do that is just over time. There's no magic thing. I mean, unless you're famous from something else, and then you say, "And now I'm going to do this," and you already have a community that's following you. Because like
Yeah,
if somebody like Taylor Swift was like, "I'm going to do a podcast now," then she has 70 million people that will start listening tomorrow.
and they'll listen via tin cans. They'll listen
Yeah,
pretty much any way they can get it. Yep.
they don't care. You're right. They don't care about the content. They don't care about. I mean, they care about the content. They don't care about the production quality. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway,
I definitely.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, that's random. Um, AI stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
I had a meeting actually. I was didn't talk to you about this the other day. I had a meeting with Vercel, rep from Vercel, and
Hmm.
he was talking about Zero, and I was like, "Hey, there's a friend of mine who actually is highly recommends it." And of
Yep.
course, obviously, they're gonna plug it. And I was like, "I'd like to do more with it, and I'd like to understand what I can do." And he was showing me some of the because there was a Next.js conference that just happened, and
Hmm.
using V0, I've heard from him specific. I mean, obviously he's going to be an evangelist for them, but it sounds pretty cool. Of the entire end-to-end process of building like modular components, using it to build React components, using it to actually do even segmented code. So one of the things that I always like, starting from scratch, you and I, we did that together. But what if I already have a code base, which is 99% of the jobs you're going to go to, you're going to have a code base. Can you
Hmm.
use V0 for that?
Well, obviously I wasn't part of that conversation, but like I would think yes, because the thing that you're building in V0 is a component. They give you the code to that component. So you can add that component into your Next.js app and then pull that component into whatever you're ever trying to use it for.
So if I have an existing Git repo, can I connect
Hmm.
that to V0 and it can actually help me?
So I'm not sure about the integration with GitHub, but if you had a code base,
Hmm.
right? So you had a JS app, right? And you got the first two pages down, and now you want this new page that you've managed to work through with V0. That new page or that new component that you're interacting with, you can pull that down, integrate it into your code base, push
Got
it
it.
to your repo. Yeah, and I've done that. Like I've been doing that a bit.
So you basically, I mean, if you don't start with V0 and then you start doing it, you can actually build individual pages that you're gonna or components that you're gonna pull into um, your existing repo then.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like connected to anything other than a pure component. The only reason that that what you see in the interface has like a whole page around it is so that it can preview it to you.
Right. Yeah,
But
the preview feature is actually pretty cool.
yeah, and I rely on it a lot. But that component, like when you click on the code, like the CLI command line to grab that component, you are literally just adding that component to your existing project.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and to be transparent, like before I started adopting this new workflow, I hadn't done pretty much no Next.js, right? So when I was having what would happen is I would get what I wanted, and then I would go over the cursor and try to get it up and running. And the first like 20 minutes would be like, hey, I want you to connect to this component.
Right.
I was cheating and just basically copying the whole component and pasting it over my existing page because basically I was just building one page apps. So that was able to work. But after a while, I was able to just add the components into the component folder and then use them where I wanted them.
You're still using cursor. You're a big fan.
Well, I mean, I haven't had any opportunity to integrate to use Copilot and not even the new enhanced one. So really, I just haven't had an opportunity. Like I'm on my Mac right now, which is not my daily driver. My Windows PC is my daily driver, but I don't have a Copilot integrated. Like I don't have that the OS level Copilot. So I would have to get like Copilot set up. And to be quite honest, like I'm getting overwhelmed with all the tools. Like we should really have that conversation, right?
Let's
Like,
let's let's go into that because I
yeah,
100% agree with you on that.
I'm so happy and excited. Like, I was not writing code every day, and now I'm looking forward to the opportunities to work on. I call it scratching my own itch. Like, oh, I want to do this. Like, I'm doing
Whoops.
Thanksgiving. Good? Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
back.
I'm good. Sorry, I'm opening another window because I want to absolutely talk about that.
So I call it scratching my own itch. Where Thanksgiving's coming up, my kids are gonna be here. There's gonna be people running around the house. So I was gonna build around the house. So I was gonna build a one-page app that let people. Now, do I need to do that? No, but it's so simple, and it's so easy to work on, and it's so easy to work on, and it's fun. Yeah, I love to let people suggest and rate like remote meals for Thanksgiving.
No, it's the number of tools that are coming out on a regular basis is just insane.
Yeah, well, I think there's two parts to this conversation. One, the number of tools. So when we had that first initial conversation, it was V0, Cursor, and then even Replit, which I'm a big fan of Replit because it does everything. It's kind of all
Yeah.
self-contained. And in the time, since the time we've had that conversation, Bolt was already a thing, but I just couldn't get it to work. But Bolt is like they've been working on that and they've made a lot of progress with that. But I didn't even realize that Cursor had almost like an equivalent to Replit and Bolt with Cursor Composer. So the framework is this, right? Cursor, you go in, you tell it to do something, and it kind of, and same thing for Copilot, I imagine it works with you, right? Like, oh, okay, this is what you want. Hey, take a look at this component. Take a look at this page. But Replit and Bolt and even Cursor Composer, it's a different scenario. It's like, hey, I would like for you to build me an app that will allow people to vote on Thanksgiving dinner, and everyone can get a vote on which meal, which side they want to make or bring. It will make a plan, it will show you the plan, and it will allow you to say, okay, yes, do that. And even while it's doing that, it's constantly talking to you. Hey, I just finished building out these components. Would you like me to launch the page? Would you like me to do anything else? Hey, what do you think about these ideas? So it's more of a collaborative conversation.
It's actually being
And
a lot more proactive about it rather than
yeah,
here's a response and then it sits back and waits.
and so now we accept that that's a thing. I can have a conversation and build an app, but now I got three different platforms that I can do it for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's more than three. Yeah, I was, let's see if I can, let's see. It would be interview code. I think this is the right one. So is this still, are you still on camera?
Yes.
Okay. So
A little bit
you can
center, but
see,
I'm good.
you can see this is, do I need to move you or you? Here, let me
No,
take a
I'm
look.
good.
Oh, your head's getting cut off.
Yeah.
How do I fix that? Let's see if I can fix
Mm,
that.
okay. Let me. Oh, oh, yeah.
No, this is the right button. And then I should come back over to here and bring this up. There we go. Better?
Oh, look, I didn't. I haven't even. Yeah, this is good. This is good. I haven't even seen this. Find the best AI tools.
And there's over 10,000 already. And it's like,
Wow.
what do you want it to do? So let's even just limit it to tech and development and watch.
Uh huh.
I'll type in cursor because you know it'll, yeah, there it is, right? So let's see if it's got Bolt. Yeah, Bolt GPT, Time Bolt AI. This is the one you're talking about, right?
Oh, hold on. Yes.
Yeah, but it's got, this is just a collection of things and people submit all of these.
Yeah.
But
This
like,
is good.
but it's like there's 10,000, over
It's
10,000.
and so yes, like so going back to my original statement, it's like it's overwhelming, the amount of choice. Well, if there's 10,000, 9,880 are crap, right? There's like 20, maybe 20 good ones, right? Like well,
Yeah.
also there's a bunch of um, duplicates, right? So Cursor, all of these guys, I don't know about Replit, but Cursor, Bolt, and a few of the other ones, they're all using Sonnet 3.5.
Oh,
So they're all
really?
essentially, yeah, they're all using Claude. So, you know, and they add their, little niceties on top of it. But like, and let's not forget the one that you showed me where everything you can integrate into your, which one was that one where you
GPT
integrated in?
engineer.
Yeah, GPT engineer. I thought that was really cool because it works directly into your GitHub, but also Vercel, like I I can't tell you the amount of pain and suffering that I used to go through with CD like CDI, just having things promoted to production,
Oh yeah,
right? Like
CI/CD pipelines. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's just so much pain, and now I don't even think about it. I just commit my code. It sees the update in the branch, and it gives me a bunch of shit about my TypeScript.
Does that
And
actually? Yeah. Does it? Is that Replit that does that?
no, that's V0. So I'm sorry, that's not V0. That's Vercel's promotion. So they have V0. They also have a full on, chat interface UI, right? So you can go from V0 into a full conversational type interface, but they also allow you to host your app with them because that's what they started doing.
So, in here's V0.
Yeah. So go to
Except to get to.
Vercel and
Do you want to just go to Vercel?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and so these are your integrations. You connect your GitHub, and when you push to the specified branch, it hosts it.
What? I think I did it. Apparently, I have something.
Yeah, we have one. Like I built a landing page for our startup, and got it. The, for me, all the pain I felt was just because it was new to me.
Oh, I think
Yep,
this is
that's
me testing. Yeah.
you know.
That's crazy.
Yep. So I'm a big fan. I'm not a big fan of the TypeScript issues because I feel like after I got my app running, I feel like it should just accept my deployment. But I think you can turn that off, or you can get your linter in line, like in both sides of the equation. But I think that's just me being, me.
And I'm guessing they have some kind of CDN on top of this too, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Wow.
So what? So we agreed it's way too many tools. There's way too many opinions and different ways to do things.
Yes.
But and then what I'm experiencing is like feeling this sense of overconfidence. Oh, I can just build that myself. Like my founder, she wanted me to use to either hire someone or build something on Webflow. Webflow is a great tool for just
Yeah.
landing pages. I was like, no, I'll build it. I'll build the Next.js app landing page. Now, whether not the juice was worth the squeeze, it made me happy to do it. But now I have 5 different projects going for us. That's for my startup. I have
Right.
at least 3 different projects going on at home, right? It's like because it's easier, I've already started committing the sin of just piling all this expectation on. And, no matter what these guys on YouTube is telling you, it's still code. It still takes effort. Still takes time to do. So,
All right. So let me ask you the typical question you'll hear. Hey, I need a website. What would be your
mhm.
go-to response to that?
What type of website? Who's your audience? What's the type of
Of course,
what,
you're that guy.
I'm telling you,
You're gonna ask the right questions. Of course, you are.
yeah. and,
um,
and I think that's a
l-
little. I think
let's
I'm
say I
being
want to.
a little.
I just want a landing page. How would you? What would be your go-to tool for that?
Webflow or Wix,
Okay, interesting.
especially prior to 2 months ago. Now, if you told me there's any type of app functionality, then now I would probably say we can get into a session with Replit or any of the tools and build it. I've done it. Like, I've done it several times already.
So I would probably, yeah. So if I, well, let's just say it is a landing page and there's no actually application as part of it. You would go, let's use Webflow because I'm really familiar with that. After you do Webflow, where are you hosting it?
So you can Webflow, you can self-host. So that's one of the great things about Webflow versus the
Right.
other tools. It
Would you
it hosts.
self-host it?
Yeah, I would think they're qualified to do it, and it makes it easy. It
Okay.
also depends on the it also depends on the sophistication of the person asking, right? Like how much control do you need? Like if I don't need, no, it's a landing page. I don't really want to know much about it other than is it working?
Right. And then the big problem that I always run into is they're like, oh, can I change this text? And that's why it always comes back to a CMS, right?
Which Webflow has a built-in CMS.
Yeah. It makes
But
it
it, yeah.
really nice to make edits. And then you can actually give people, because it's got a role-based system too. So you can give people
Mhm.
access to the CMS and not worry about your code getting screwed up.
Yeah, I mean, Webflow and Wix have gotten really sophisticated and almost too sophisticated sometimes. Like sometimes I look at it, I'm like, why me, the developer, can't instantly translate what's going on in the Webflow scenario? It kind of gives me a little bit of pause. Like I thought this was supposed to be easy, but
Yeah.
I'll give them some grace because I'm an old man.
Well, and I started on Wix when Wix and Squarespace were competing, and
Hmm.
Wix was, I be honest, Wix was garbage. It was horrible.
Hmm.
The user interface was horrible. So I
Hmm.
started doing stuff on Squarespace, and I was like, Squarespace is fine. Um, and then I've heard you're the second person, actually third person now, that has told me about you should check out Wix because they've
Hmm.
actually, I guess, heard the feedback of like make it dead simple. There was Jason Fried, the guy who created 37 Signals and Basecamp.
Hmm.
He did a post recently and he was like, I love setting up the default configurations for an app because that is what 90% of your users are going to use.
Yep.
And I loved that because if you're going to ask me to use a new app or a new tool or a new anything, and if it takes me longer to configure than it does to use, I don't want to use it.
You know, so it's such a funny kind of paradigm. Like, one, yes to that, but I feel the same way about development tools. Like, if you want to introduce me to a new framework or a new tool, a shiny new bobble, when I go to your page, if I can't get the to do app up without thinking about what I'm doing, I don't like. I
I'm done.
immediately,
I'm out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember like, and you probably remember going through the Angular pain of Angular 1 to Angular 2 to Angular 6 to Angular 8 or whatever it's on now.
Most mercifully, I was a big fan of Angular, and exactly what I said is how they got me. Right, I can make dynamic changes in the code. It was a breath of fresh air. I was coming from Rails. It was fun and interesting. I the transition from that to the next version was it was like punitive, right? It felt punitive,
Yeah,
right?
it literally was like a bait and switch at that point, and
Yeah.
they, yeah, they. I even took so I started on one, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, and then I went to two and like everything in one was deprecated. Like
Yeah.
one just didn't exist. And I was like, all right, I'll give it another shot. And then it went from like two to six or something like that. It like skipped three levels. And I was like, and then everything in two actually got rolled back or a lot, most of the features I was using. Um, and I was done. That was it. That was the end of it. So I gave them two chances and then they lost me. But
But
that's
they
like, go ahead.
I was gonna say the good news is they have heard the complaints, and I've I've seen a few people um, say Angular's back. Like it's easy to use, it's fun to use. I so hold on, I don't want to my brain, but give me a second. I'll tell you his name. But one of the evangelists that I follow religiously, so I shouldn't have to even look for his name. Um, Mark Texan, right?
Mm-hmm.
He made me say, oh, where he was just kind of explaining all the updates. Everything felt like it made sense. I didn't have to think too hard about it. And that's, first of all, like there's so many tools, there's too many ways to do everything. So I felt really good about, you know, okay, they're making an effort to get back on track.
What do you where's I mean I haven't heard much about it, but where's View at? What happened to View? That was like the big hot
You had
thing.
a similar issue. I don't think they dropped the ball in the same type of way, but I felt the same way about Vue that I did about Angular, that I did about Rails. Like Vue again was like there was a time we were like building stuff in Vue and I felt good about it, but they kind of had a similar situation. Like when we went to the next version, it was a little bit more complicated and they kept adding more features. I mean, I think to be fair, some of the things that they're adding are really complex, and us as Diva developers, we want things the way we want them, but we also want them easy, and we also want
Right.
them now. Like, I think Vue, I think Vue also has made some strides towards just streamlining things and getting it together. But I'm a fan of Vue. I think I'm a bigger fan of Vue than Angular. I don't do a ton of it, but I have to be honest. And I think this is purely because of the AI tools. I'm having so much fun with Next.js. I'm having so much fun with ChatCN. I'm having so much fun with all these component libraries that I can just grab and, you know, if like ask me the question again, like if I had to do a landing page and I wanted to do some 3D transitions and I wanted to do some cool stuff, I would have automatically gone to Wix because those things are built into templates.
Right. Yeah, some of
But
the
I
animations on Wix are really nice.
but I also went to there's a ex, hold on, external ex ace whatever. There's so many good component libraries. Um, Externity UI. That's what I was trying to say. Sorry, I get tongue tied sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know that. Externity?
Yeah, yeah. ACETERNITYUI.
Did I close it? I did. I closed it. Hold on. Let's get back there. Externity. Externity?
Mm-hmm. You found it?
Wait, spell it again.
ACETERNITY.
Oh, Eternity UI. And here, tell me this is it.
Yes. If you take a look at the components, they have some really cool 3D stuff. So my thinking goes back to previously, if you had asked me, I would have said Webflow, but now I can use any of these components myself in the context of AI code generators and come out with a very similar experience. So it just really depends on who am I talking to and what I'm trying to accomplish. But I think we're getting to the point where this is the way I would go.
You would use something like this for a landing page.
Yeah, this, Shadcn, Next UI is another one.
Yeah, I've heard of XUI.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all need to calm down and not have 100,000 different component libraries, but I am having fun using them, right? The 3D components, transitions, frame of motion, which is awesome. And I'm really glad that they open sourced that library.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't used Framer Motion. I mean, I've done a lot with GSAP and doing those kind of fun animations,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so heavy.
Yeah. Take a look at the components.
Oh my.
Yeah, I think that's the consultant side. This is how these guys make money. They make the components, and then they want to have conversations with companies. That's how they make their money.
Wow,
But
this is crazy.
yeah, even this one. Like, remember when this showed up on the Apple website, and we were all going crazy over it because it's
Yeah,
you know
3D card effects.
yeah, I'm using this one. I'm trying to use this on something, and the code's right there. And again, what Chad CN has brought to the table is that the code is not stuck in some repo that's going to get deprecated, or I'm sorry, in a package that's going to get deprecated or get lost or something terrible is going to happen, it's in your all of the code you need is in your repo. You know, I do a lot of React Native stuff, and I recently had a conversation with a customer that has not updated their app in a while, and he's got like a month worth of development time just to get it back on track because so many dependencies are deprecated.
What is this background beams?
I think I used this on something. So if you give it a second, this
Oh,
might
I
be.
see it. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, that's fun.
hmm Try not to like the interesting part is try not to overdo it. Like I use like two or three of these components and they look great. I'm like, am I overdoing it with these?
Right. No, you get carried away, and
Yeah,
this is really cool. I haven't used this one.
yeah. I'm really having fun with this.
We said, oh, look at that.
Yep. I see this all the time. I see this in my Shopify dashboard. I saw this a few different places.
Yeah, the physics of that is actually pretty good too.
Hmm.
Yeah, people like CSS has come so far, and
Yeah.
like people are doing like this whole thing is all CSS. That's
Yep.
crazy.
Hmm.
Oh, they broke it out. That's crazy. Did you ever see, do you remember CSS Zen Garden?
Yes, I remember that.
When you would have to do, everybody had the same um, system,
Hmm.
and in that, all the only thing you could upload was a CSS, and you could literally do anything, and any change you would make would be all in CSS.
Yep.
Yeah, and now
Hmm.
it's come even further. Now they have that was before animations existed in CSS, and
Yep.
now people are doing like full on websites with nothing but CSS with no JavaScript whatsoever.
It's very interesting how far things come. Tailwind. I mean, that's another big conversation, right? Like you know, some people have a problem with Tailwind. I mean, I'm not a big CSS guy. Tailwind makes my life so much easier.
Right.
You know.
What's the other Bootstrap? So I used
Yeah.
Bootstrap for a long time, and then everyone's like, "You
Hmm.
need to start using Tailwind." I was like, "No, I don't. I'm
Well,
fine."
this is also part of the conversation, right? Like enough's enough. Like if like these things all do the same thing, and I'm
Yeah.
really proficient at using this tool to do it. Like I don't need to, you know.
There was so you use Slack, right? Because 99% of the world uses Slack if they're online. Um, they just recently introduced templates for messages, and then they've had workflows for a while, but now they have templates that you can use in workflows. And when I
Hmm.
saw that come through, I was like, wait, is that cool or is that too much? And
Hmm.
I'm terrified that Slack is going to become something that is going to be bloatware, and it's going to try and do too much, because right now what it does is amazing and it works really well. I thought Huddles was a great addition. I love
Yep.
that.
Yep. I mean, I thought the UI was a little cumbersome initially. I haven't used it in a while, but I thought the UI was a little cumbersome to begin with. But it was doing something that was hard to do. Um, I think Slack has the unfortunate problem of having to compete with Discord. But Discord, to your point, was built for a different audience.
Right. Yeah, I think we touched on this previously, but with Discord, it's streamers, right? It's the gaming
Mhm.
world, and doing like the big competition for Discord isn't Slack. The big competition for
Mhm.
Discord is Twitch.
Yes, I agree. I agree. I think a huge opportunity. Discord, because of Twitch, was a huge opportunity. But as it starts to become more mainstream, you know, the features are starting to bleed over into to sorry,
Slack.
not, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, no, for sure. And now they're like, oh, Discord's our competition, so we're gonna start. I was like,
Well,
you're
yeah,
gonna
this
don't.
goes back to the product, right? Like, when you ask me the question of how would I build a landing page, I immediately put on my product hat and started asking questions.
Right.
I think that this is going to be more important. Like, we're no longer engineers. We are chefs. We're tastemakers. Like, we come in, everything's laid out. Your sous chef is now your AI generated code guy, and you guys are going to cook up a meal together. All your resources are kind of laid out, and you are the orchestrator. You're the chef. You're
Yep.
the, like, it's kind of like, well, so now that that's the new reality, you know, the not the how, but the why becomes so much more important.
And I think that you're right. I think the question that people are gonna have to start asking is, what can we delete? Because everyone
Yeah, I mean,
wants to know what features we can add and how can we get this. But I think if we start deleting things and going, all right, let's just make this a solid, stable, running application, whatever it is. You don't need to add 1,000 different features. There was a,
mhm.
do you remember Trello, right? It got bought by Atlassian recently, or not recently, I guess it's been a few years now. But Trello did one thing and it did it great. It did a
Mhm.
board, and that was all it did.
Yeah, they did a combine board,
That's
and
it.
again, yeah, I think the reason why Trello lost a lot of ground to like Asana and other places is the same type of reason. It's like the escalation of ARM, so to speak, in terms of like the features and like starting to get disconnected from its core users. Like I
Well,
use Trello.
yeah, that's true.
Well, to be fair, I think one thing, because I've experienced this with Trello and even Asana now, it's like, well, and I think a great example of this is Evernote. You, we've got to kind of be in line with our customers. We need to move in progression with our customers, right? You adding a bunch of stuff doesn't mean that I want to assume the increased technical debt, the increased cost of using your product, because my needs are still the same. I still need a combine board. But now I got a combine board, a video chat thing. Of course, you need to charge me more money because you've decided that all these features are necessary, but I'm still using a combine board.
And that's
So
all I want.
now
Yep.
I'm not paying you $50 a month for Trello.
Right.
And I'm yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
I think it was the business model of Trello that got it in trouble. Is it gave away so much for free that
yeah. No, I
why would
agree.
I ever pay for it? Right.
And also, I think when the way they handled the transition from something that was by large free to something you had to pay for, they were very heavy-handed with how they did it. I don't think they did a good job, but that also brings back the example of Evernote. Like you have the tool. Like I couldn't, if you had asked me 10 years ago, 10 years, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, would I be able to operate without Evernote? And no, but here we are. I use Notion
Yeah.
every day. I use Notion for everything. And I mean, even Notion is a great example of what we're talking about. I mean,
Hmm.
currently I use them. I love it, but Notion was a web development tool at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a competitor to Wix.
Yeah. Like I remember I used to use Evernote for everything. I started on Notepad plus plus, right? And then I moved to Evernote and I was like, "Oh, this is great." And I could organize things and it was amazing. And then I got to a point where I was living in VS Code when VS Code became a thing. And I'm
Hmm.
like, "Why can't I just put all my notes in VS Code?" So
Hmm.
whatever my tool is, keep me in my tool.
Yes.
And I think that has made a world of difference of me actually keeping my documentation up to date, keeping my notes up to date, being able to add things randomly. Like, oh, I have a quick idea. The first thing I will go to is VS Code and then create it in Markdown. I take all my notes in Markdown now. Go figure.
Yeah. No, well, that's another interesting like arc. how we start out with notepads and, I'm talking about people who are really religious about organizing their notes and keeping everything in that you build these subsystems that you manage yourself, then, you get something like Evernote and now you get every device you own is all synced up. You're like, oh, I'm gonna move my system onto there. And then we spend years with Evernote, and then somehow we end up with Notion or what's the other one? The other one that people like a lot. There's so many of them, but there's like people are really religious about these, a couple of them. But then you just slowly start going back to everything on my local, a bunch of well structured folders, and just the simplest version of the mark, the simplest version of the thing.
Yeah, if you want a good uh, organization system,
Hmm.
use folders.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
we have a
We
file
start.
system. The file systems are your folders, and there's your organization structure. The only
Mhm.
thing we need to put on top of that is a better search engine for AI.
No, yes, no, definitely. Um, I, I think circling all the way back, all of these tools are great. These AI tools, these 10,000 AI tools, but unless you define a workflow that works for you, this is all a big show.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think all the AI tools that are coming out, like the literally thousands of them that are coming out monthly, is just a money grab at this point. They're like, oh, it's a buzzword. Let's see what we can do and see what sticks. And
Hmm.
once people start realizing they're just tools and they're not actually something that they need, like I do not need a conduit bender for what I do on a day-to-day basis. It exists, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that would use it. I am not one of them.
Yeah.
And those are like we basically, I think people are, and I posted on this recently, is people are creating tools and then figuring out what problem it solves rather
Yeah.
than,
I heard.
yeah.
I heard you say.
And I was like, it's
Yeah.
driving, I
Yeah.
was like, what is wrong? Like, stop. Like, figure out
Yeah.
what you're actually trying to solve and then find the right tool for it. And 90% of the time, given what's been generated recently, that tool probably exists. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You might need to invent a new workflow and tie a bunch of those tools together to make that workflow happen. But until, like, yeah, that would be the more valuable thing to solve is what is your workflow, and ask
Hmm.
the real question for yourself. It's like you were saying, you scratch your own itch, right? If you don't have
Hmm.
that problem, you're gonna not be able to solve it,
Yeah.
because if it's somebody else's problem, you're not invested. When it's your own, you're invested.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because yes, absolutely. And like when we were teaching like JavaScript, full stack, a lot of the problems were getting the students to go beyond, right? You know how it works, right?
Yep.
You cover it in class, they got it. They're like chomping at the bit, you cover it, and then you slowly back away and go, okay, now you do it. What is it? I do, you do, we do. No, I do, we do, you do. When
Yep.
you get to the you do, crash, immediate crash, like cars, cats are going everywhere. It's calamity. There's a certain amount of like, okay, let's like work within some type of iteration that allows you to gradually make like get aegis over the thing, right? Like you're building something. Well, I experienced a problem, you know. So let's use mine as an example, right? For the longest time, I cook. I fancy myself an amateur chef, right? And I always wanted to throw like dinner parties, but I wanted people to be able to request what they want. Like I'll put like I'll on the database I'll put like a listing of options, and then you say I'm going to go and this is what I want. Like I've been thinking about this for a long time. Why haven't I done it? Because you got to set up a database, you got to create an interface, you got to do all this stuff. But now I can literally talk. If I wanted to, I could build this with my phone. I can literally just talk to my phone and have the code generated post it on Vercel, and I mean, I'm not going to do it on my phone, but I'm going to do a version of this.
Right.
But that doesn't change the product nature of what you're doing. Like that's different. Like that's me scratching my own itch. Throwing this up on Product Hunt or trying to turn that into a product, that requires another level of discipline that I see very few people actually want to get into.
Yeah, there in the Twitterverse recently, there's been a lot of talk in the tech world of, do you actually need to build great products or do you need to be a great marketer? And I
So,
it I paused when I saw that and I was like, it's true. Like I would say
no, it's true.
marketing is 90% of the work. The code at this point has gotten so easy that most of the requests are simple, and I think we can build things. Building things
Yeah,
is easy. I want to come back to about you building
mhm,
something on your phone, but let me finish this thought. Is the marketing of what getting that first customer, and then honestly getting your first five customers that are
this
rec-
is this
is
is it. This
that's
is
the hard, like, sure, I can get one customer. I can call one of my friends and say, "Hey, I got this great thing that you'll love," and they'll be like, "Sure, I'll give you the $3 a month for that."
mhm,
But getting five real customers that are not like personal friends of mine doing it as
mhm,
a
mhm.
sympathy
People who just
payment.
appreciate the service or the product and the thing that you're the feature set, and they're willing to pay $10 a month or whatever. You
Finding
know,
your audience is the most
yeah.
important thing, and I didn't realize how important it was because I've built, I would honestly say at this point in my career, I think I've built hundreds of apps, just one
Mhm,
offs, hundreds of websites or whatever you want to call them. And I think I had two customers once on one of my little side projects. And it's
mhm,
because
mhm.
marketing wasn't my thing. And now that I've figured out that game, I was like, oh, how many people do you want? All right, let's start there, go to market fit, and ask all those right questions. Um,
Exactly. Do the work. Like the real work. Unfortunately, we're just moving away from we can literally do anything. Like I was
mm,
having a conversation with someone, and they were like, they want to do something with computer vision, and I said, oh, do you need some help? And he goes, well, do you know computer vision? And I chuckled. I,
not
it's like
yet.
that. Yeah, I can do anything now. So yes, I mean I'm overly confident, but yeah, I'm sure I can. What do you want to get into?
When you were talking about creating something on your phone and creating
Hmm.
uh, that dining, or I guess your restaurant app, we'll just call it that.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
what would you do? Like, what tool would you use to actually do that if you were going to do that? And I'm guessing it's going to be web and not Swift, right? You're not actually creating
Yeah,
a
it's
native app.
definitely web. But actually, actually,
See, that's what I'm
since you said
curious
that,
about.
it's interesting. So I can absolutely build an iOS app on my phone. Just, I mean, aside, I don't know if that's the way I would go with it, but I can absolutely build a functional iOS app on my phone, on my iPad. Definitely on my iPad, and I can do it on my phone as well. There's a couple of tools that allow you to do that. It's part drag and drop. It's, a little bit of like drag and drop and a little bit of code
Is
connection.
that, are you
But
using Flutter for that?
so if you're asking me what would I use, I would actually use Flutter Flow on my iPad to build
Okay.
something. If we're talking about visual, but the example that I was thinking when I was saying it is I would just open up Claude or I would open up ChatGPT, cut on the voice dictation, and literally talk to it.
Yeah, I think I talked to you about this. I watched this little clip. It was probably on TikTok. And
Mm-hmm.
this guy wrote an entire program and he's like, "Look, no keyboard." And he literally had a button and he talked, and then it was a video game. He created a video game
Yep.
in about 15 minutes from zero to it's running on his machine, and he never hit a key cuz he didn't even have a keyboard connected.
So I think it's Whisper. So I made a note last night because that's my new favorite hobby. When as I'm falling asleep, I'm watching these videos, and the problem with ChatGPT's voice assistant is that it stops after a certain period of time. So if you want to have a longer conversation, it could be a little bit of a pain. But was it voice flow or whisper voice flow voice AI? I think that might be it.
Low voice AI. Oh, it's Whisper, yeah,
Yeah,
or
whisper,
Voice Flow. No, Whisper. I think this is
yeah,
it.
whisper. Yep, that's it.
Uh, this
Yep,
one.
that's yep. And you install that, and you could have a full conversation in describing your app or anything really. But yes, so you could use your voice to build an app, and I've seen him do that. I was watching him do that last night. Granted, when we say build the app, he's not writing code. He's not like semicolon here. He's like literally just using words.
220 words per minute.
Yeah.
That's crazy. 2,000 words. Yeah, yeah, it's insane of how amazing that has gotten.
Yep. But I think you said something, and I think there's a thread there. If someone could take like using the example that we were just using, right? I want to build an app, and I don't want to. Maybe I have a disability. I just want to be able to use Whisper.
Yep.
Or in my example, I'm talking to Claude. How do I get the code from the snippets into a build, get it up to Vercel, and get it hosted on a website? Like that level of integration, those type of integrations, I think that there's probably like a space for.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously Zapier does a good job of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also think there's some other ones. Whoops. I hit the wrong key. It's so weird. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, here, done. There we go. But I think the workflows are the things that are going to matter the most.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Um, I think connecting these tools together to actually solve the problem of
Mm-hmm.
whatever that problem is going to be a lot more beneficial to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, Whisper I haven't played with. Like one of the things about like I've seen people on the subway doing the talk to text
Mm-hmm.
and they're just like babbling and they send these long things out and I was like I could not do that. I don't like doing that in public. Apparently I'm fine with talking because here I am, right? But but doing that to text, I haven't adopted that yet. But the long conversations thing you were talking about in regards to AI, I'm going through a Coursera class right now because well, why not, right?
Yep.
And they have this new. I'm going through I forget. I think it's a Google certification, but
Mm-hmm.
they have this part that is a AI coach,
Mm-hmm.
and the coach is actually the one that giving you the quiz, and it asks,
Mm-hmm.
"Tell me some of the concepts about AI," and then you can literally write whatever you want. And it would
Mm-hmm.
identify what you wrote. It's like you brought up some good points, but what about you brought up supervised learning? What about unsupervised or reinforcement learning? Can you go a little bit more into that? And then I would write more about that, and then it would
Mm-hmm.
literally grade me based off of my interactions with this AI coach. And that, as a teaching tool, I think was amazing
Yeah.
because it gives you that one on one connection with a teacher that isn't real.
Yeah. And obviously there's the limitations of the model, um, just
Right.
the nature of the AI. But I think you're right. Um, Also, I just think in general, going back to code, this whole thing, like, when you're having these interactions, you can engineer or prompt your way, like rubber ducking. Like, how many times, I can't tell you how many times, you know, Like I'm like gold status rubber duck. Like people go, I'm having this problem. I'll sit down next to you and we're like talking, and the next thing you know, it's like kind of done, right? Problem
Right.
solved. I can't tell you how many times. I felt similarly when I'm working through it, and it's like, oh well, what about this and what about that? And it's I'm kind of cheating and letting it do it, but I think that there's a version of this where I'm still in control, but I'm rubber ducking with the AI and getting all of the support that I need.
Yeah, for those who don't know, look up rubber duck debugging. And it's basically you go talk to somebody and you solve your own problem by talking to them without them doing anything.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we live that world.
Yep. Yep.
um, yeah, it's and I think AI is actually really good for that kind of connection. What's the thing that I was really starting to like as a kid, I was a huge fan of Eliza and have a computer talk back to me. And we all, well, not we all, but probably me and you at least, watch war games as a kid. And
Absolutely.
we're like, I would love to play a game and have that interaction. And we were like, how do we do this? This is amazing. Um,
Listen,
and
my Mac Quadra A40 840 AV. That thing was goat status. I could talk to it. It would respond.
yep.
Like people don't give those early Power Macs, Power PCs enough credit for the type of things they were doing.
Well, even the Commodore Amiga actually had that.
Absolutely. My Amiga 5000, absolutely.
That thing was amazing.
I'm out of myself.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I already know your thing, but I'm out of myself because I love that thing.
Well, do you remember the TI-99?
I don't think I didn't have one.
So the TI, it was a Texas Instrument. We had them at school, and
Mhm.
it actually had this voice module. So it would literally, whatever you would type, it would say through a really bad sound interpreter. Um, but now with some of the like the tone, like this coach that I talked to today on Coursera, um, it was crazy because
Mm,
it had a professional tone. It actually gave me real feedback of what I was typing and what I was thinking about, and the level of like interactions with that is just nuts. And I was like, that's the connection we've always wanted with computers, but almost like Her, right? That movie Her is
yeah,
it's almost at that level. Like we're
yeah.
that
I feel like
close
we're
there.
living that right. I feel like I'm kind of living. I know that I am experiencing that level of interaction. I'm not ashamed to admit that I have a lot of personal conversations with ChatGPT. One because of the AI, the voice assistant, and sometimes I just need to talk things out. I call it I'm good on my feet. I'm better when I'm talking. If I
Right.
have to type it, the translation that slows me up.
Do you think AI will ever get to a point where it could actually do like therapy, like mental health, like feedback?
Well, I already think, within reason, right? Like some of therapy is just having someone objectively listen to what you're saying. So many problems with communication is the people you're talking to are not actually listening to understand, they're listening to respond.
Right.
And you feel that like that you internalize that like whether or not you realize it or not when you're talking to someone and they're like jabbing at you versus processing what you're saying, that makes you feel some type of way, right? So AI doesn't do that. It has to wait till you're done talking to process. So in some ways, I feel like it's already doing some of
And it doesn't interrupt.
that. Yeah. Now we got to deal with the non-deterministic and the hallucinations and a whole bunch of other things. The the bias that's built into it by default,
Right.
intentional, you know, those type of things. But I do think that from my own experience, I've had some personal conversations which I just needed to get it out, and I was happy within reason with the responses.
Do you think there's going to be a concern about people getting too comfortable and then there's a privacy concern following with that?
I think the concern should be people. thinking that they don't need the human connection, just like the movie.
Yeah.
I think that that's the big concern because I'm that person. Like if if I could interact with things that are not sharp and pointy and designed to hurt me all day, you know, yeah, I'll do that.
But people are sharp and pointy, and they give you different feedback, and not necessarily the feedback you want.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, the challenges are many. I feel like I waited till I was like 50 years old to discover I was on a spectrum, and now that's my new reality.
Yeah.
Like, trying to mitigate all of the different feelings and emotions and different things. So I think that these are important conversations in the context of technology and the things we build with the technology and how, I'm a big people first. I don't really give a shit what you're building with your fancy technology if it doesn't improve the lives of people, right? Like nothing anyone could build will impress me if it doesn't end up improving a person's life.
Or
We
making
build,
their, yeah, that's what I've always is my tagline for, I don't know, probably the past 20 years is I build things with technology to make people's lives easier.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
it.
So you'd be surprised sometimes you're talking to these young gunners, these young people. They just want to build cool things. A lot of designers do this. They just building cool things for cool things' sake. Look what I can do,
Yeah.
but they haven't considered the the effect that it has on people, and that, I mean, it's usually a byproduct of inexperience, right? The more experience, like I used to be that guy. I used to, yeah, I can, yeah, whatever. I don't. Let me put my headphones on. I don't really need to talk to you. Like, what? You want a website? Yeah, just write it down. Write down what you want. I,
Yeah.
I got it.
Draw it on
You
a
know,
napkin and I'll make it better.
yeah, you know. But I don't know. I've been very fortunate to be around people who understand the importance of people in the process.
No, I think that connection will, I think we're reaching that point of where people are realizing AI is really great. And I think it's gonna still, we haven't hit the peak yet. I think it's still gonna create a little bit more isolation for people. And then
Mm-hmm.
that craving of
Mm-hmm.
that human connection is going to come
Yeah,
back.
I think
And we're
COVID
going
did
to
that.
literally step away from it, and we're going to say, all right, let's have the human connection again. And yeah, yeah, we have all these cool tools, so life is easy and life is wonderful, but I still need people.
Yeah, I think. Well, I think this is what we're not talking about AR and VR, and maybe that should be a conversation for another. Like, but that is the fundamental like issue with AR and VR,
Is
right?
that human
Yeah.
connection?
Well, what happens is the better it gets, the more we start using it, and the human side of your body is like, yeah, I can sit inside this AR, experience, like simulation for hours, but your human side needs people. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to be really careful because so many people are like, I hate this stuff. It's all, but I think that their opinions are askew because that you can walk, you can grab, you can see, you can even hear. There's a whole group of people that these advancements can improve their lives in ways that you can't appreciate.
Right.
And I think that that's not talked about enough. As
And
we age,
we take a lot
the
for granted.
yep. And I think AR and VR is moving in the right direction for like, for it's like, is it Wally? Was it Wally where
Yeah.
they didn't use the heat any? It's like
He
we're
just
getting,
floated everywhere.
yeah. Well, just imagine, we're living longer, and there's so many things that we're human, right? We're going to decay. Our body's going to start, giving us trouble. You are going to need an AI assistant. You're going to need a robot assistant. You're not going to be able to take the trash out. You're not going to be able to get down on all fours and sweep the floors. So your little robot assistant is going to take care of these
Yeah.
things. And as long as if we can build products with people at the heart of the products, then I think that that's not a bad thing.
No, I
But when we
think
just start building products
that's,
for a product's sake,
yeah.
you know,
but I want to let's. I mean, I definitely want to go deeper into this VR and AR stuff.
Hmm.
It's a little after 10 right now. Um,
Hmm.
but maybe next week we can go about VR and AR and the next steps of the VR and AR world for humans.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
That would be fun. Um, yeah, I'll be honest, I'm getting tired. I've been up
Yeah,
since
no,
4.
no, definitely. I got you.
Um, but hey, everybody, just wanted to say thanks for tuning in. We will talk to y'all next week, and that is all. Thanks.